Welcome to the Empowered Spirit Show. This is your host, Terry Ann Hyman. I'll explore the connection to the human spirit in a way that helps to navigate your life, including crisis. I am passionate about helping you to open up to your intuition and the metaphysical world of spirit to find your confidence in your own inner guidance. Take a pause, be inspired, learn ways to show up focused, centered, and more dynamic in your everyday life.
Welcome back to the Empowered Spirit Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today. This episode is being sponsored by Ritual and Shelter. Are you looking for a magical place to shop and hold space? Check out Ritual and Shelter online or in Homewood, Alabama. Browse through their bookshelves covering topics such as energy healing, crystal healing, Reiki, chakras, auras, the Akashic Records, shadow work, astrology, and earth-based healing. You can also find herbal teas and tinctures alongside their crystals and oils to help establish a mindful mindset and fluid ambience before meditation, ritual work, and reflection. Ritual and Shelter is dedicated to providing one-on-one, in-depth conversations with customers to help them find the most efficient healing methods and resources that match their unique interest and energy. They offer tarot sessions, Reiki, sound bowl, and crystal healing, and now they are offering witch consultations. Visit ritualshelter.com to book an appointment and bring peace back to the body, mind, and spirit. You can also find them on Instagram at Ritual Shelter Shop, as well as Pinterest at Ritual Plus Shelter. As this podcast goes to air, we find ourselves in a time of extremes. Whether we notice that through the weather, the political environment, or maybe even just our everyday life, we are moving through many, many extremes. How does it show up for you? I know for me, as we're talking about on the interview today, it shows up lots of times in living in that fifth dimension, up in the higher realms, expanded consciousness versus right here, right now, 3D world of humanness. I'd rather live up there, but to do my work and what we come here for, it is in this three-dimensional world. So that means I have to find that balance. I have to use my tools because, yes, go up, expand our soul's journey, understand your behaviors and your patterns through this work. But finding the tools, bring it forward, break those patterns, break those habits, allow for growth. That is what a lot of the work that I do and what we'll be talking about today is finding the tools and techniques that you can use to open up to that truth of who you are. No longer can we just keep going along, says, oh, because it's how it always was. It is a time to make changes. So cosmically, we're moving into the energy of the full moon. Light comes in, the light's returning, the days are getting longer, little by little, right? And as astrologer Armand Diaz, he's in New York, one of my astrologers, he says, things are getting exciting as we round into this Leo moon on the 12th. From the 10th to the 12th, the sun, moon, and Mercury come into alignment with revolutionary Uranus, right? You think this is correct? Yeah, so much change, so much going on. So yes, as this light increases and the days get longer and the weather shifts, all these transitions are showing us the growth and change all around, right? And as I said, I guess it was last week or the week before, I'll still say it again, as we say down south, buckle up, buttercup. We want the sensitivity of a buttercup, we do, but we also have the strength to stay in Mother Earth. So yeah, how can you do that for you? And as we move through these transitions, how do you respond? How do you react? I know that's one of the reasons I meditate, so that I can smooth out some of that reactionary time. And I know that is my own personal responsibility. Instead of going around being reactive, I can be there. We all can. But finding those tools and working with the energy of your soul right now during this winter time is so important. And as we move through these transitions, noticing how you can clean up your energy, come in for an energy session, release all that heaviness. So many of my clients are saying when they leave, when you ask, like, how do you feel now? Lighter, so much lighter. We don't have to carry all that old energy around and we just keep adding to it. So finding ways that you can create your spiritual practice, the value of it, which we'll talk about in the interview today, learning these tools and techniques is so important. And I can help you with that. As a spiritual mentor, I can help you set up your spiritual practice, find the techniques to continually return to till you build that practice and that awareness for yourself. Schedule a spiritual upgrade breakthrough call with me and let's talk about it. Session, private mentoring, whatever it is that you may be needing at this time to help you move through all of these extremes. I'll put the link in the show notes. So in today's episode, very interesting conversation. We continue our series, Spiritual Authors. Soul making, the realization of the mystical life. We talk about soul experiences, being a mystic, what that means, how you can connect and receive messages and expand your consciousness, and how important it is to trust those messages as well. What happens as we shift energy here, consciousness shifts up there, messages that we come in with and receive. Very fascinating conversation about your soul's journey, really. Before we begin, let's take a moment to pause and center. Set an intention for where you are right now. So wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes. Taking a nice deep inhale, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, bring in that breath all the way down, slowing down, centering. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. And exhale, bringing the breath all the way down, centering your energy. Inhale, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, dropping right into your heart, right into the deepest part of your heart. Feel that connection, your spirit and the greater spirit. Know that you are loved, guided, protected. Feeling all this energy coming in around you. Taking a moment and noticing that present moment for you. Notice where you are on this great wheel of life. Here where I am, we find ourselves in the season of winter and the direction of the north, where we go deep within. We listen to our soul. We listen to the wisdom of our ancestors. We open up to our visions and our dreams, to how we want to live our path, our life. Take another deep inhale and exhale. And from the heart, set an intention for your path, for this full moon energy, for the light opening up. Shokare, 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 magnifying that intention. And as you take that next breath, just release through the exhale all the way through the heart, setting the energy out into your aura. Taking another deep inhale and exhale, feel the heart opening. Feel that third eye illuminating. Focusing in, and as you're ready, bring in the awareness back. Blinking the eyes open. Coming back. So my guest today, Douglas Gillette, has a Master of Religious Studies degree from the University of Chicago and a Master of Divinity degree from the Chicago Theological Seminary. He taught in the Ametris program at Oakton College for nearly 2 decades, as well as serving as a pastor, pastoral counselor, and a Jungian influenced life guide. The best-selling author of several books, including King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, co-authored with Robert Moore, he lives in the Chicago area with his wife. So let us welcome Douglas to the show. Welcome, Douglas.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, and I'm very excited to interview you. It's one of my favorite subjects, soul, the soul energy, but your book, Soul Making, the Realization of the Mystical Life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I should say that I have never thought of myself as a mystic or wished or willed for that. It's just to the extent that I am that, it's just happened. And as I look back on my life, which I do in much of the book, I see that, I am a mystic. Not through practice, not through meditation, not through it just.
Yeah, and perhaps past life. I was down in Teoway, Takana a couple years ago, and I had a huge experience, and I've written about it too. I was actually in Freddie Silva's book about it, about being a mystic in another life. And it's no wonder I know this work innately, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have indications through dreams and other things that I have lived, or some version of me has lived before. But I haven't focused on it because, so that informs who I am now, but I've got this life to live. But being aware of the larger us's that we are does cast life in a different light. It really does.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I like to work with my students and clients on, especially in soul work and Akashic realm and past lives, we bring the wisdom forward. We have to leave some of the trauma that may have happened. I know I had died early in that lifetime, but we bring the wisdom forward to help us in this lifetime. Yeah. So how fascinating the soul. So if you would, Douglas, let's just start by asking, why did you write this book now? What led you to this? I know you've written others. We talked about it before we started. Why this one now?
Because I just had an intuition or a sense that I've lived most of my life. I have this life. I have very little left. Most of my life now is memories and very much alive and within me. And I think I just want 2 things. I wanted to express that, which I've expressed in many of my classes, but not in written form, because I've written about related, but other things. I don't know. It was just the moment to do it. And I also think that part of the impetus or the ignition of it was I took care of our granddaughter from 3 months to 13 months. I was the only daytime nanny for 10 months. And that new life she is something else. She has such a wide range of emotional experiences. And as a baby, we just really bonded because she would go into almost trance-like states when I would hold her and rock her by the east side of our house is mostly a glass wall, and looking out at the park-like backyard, and she would just be, and there were many experiences like that. And I think, as I mentioned in the book, the only fully a visual apparition that I've had ever. I've had incipient apparition experiences. The only visual one was, I think it was, my great grandmother, who the Native American Sioux, Dakota Sioux. And so in a Zoom meeting with my class session, all of a sudden in the middle of the screen comes this very old looking Native American woman, graying braids and all necklace shirt, wearing something on her head, with her name. She shows up in the middle of the screen. She puts her name in there, and it was Synoda, or if I'm right about this, her name was Sinoda, an abbreviation of her father's name, a chief, Sinomidanta. And I looked at her she was looking at me, and I thought, okay, so this is not a person that I should say, "Hi, Sinoda, welcome to the class." Anyway, the point is, and she disappeared after a few minutes, but she nodded and smiled. And that was the first day that our granddaughter was in the room with me. And I think she appeared to my granddaughter. My wife was here to take care of her while I was teaching in the office here. And various ways that I had unconsciously called Sinoda or Sinoda. And I think what it was, there's a history in the family of her showing up, checking on newborn females in the family line. And I think because I have Dakota Sioux ancestry, and our granddaughter then, of course, does too, plus a heavy mix of Native American, Mexican Indian, because my wife is that. I think she was responding. And after that sighting on the Zoom meeting, Kennedy, my granddaughter, she was like 4 months old, 5 months old. She was in my wife's arms looking out the window, basement window, which is big. And she suddenly got this look of absolute fear on her face, trembling lower lip, and was starting to cry. For what? There's nothing out there. Maybe she saw Sinoda in the room. And so my wife took her out, and I have reason to believe that Kennedy has seen Sinoda or Sinoda several times since.
It is very fascinating, and I agree with you. And I actually have past life Lakota in me. I have so many, yeah. But I think that also, to the point of talking about soul making and the realization of the mystical life,
Yeah.
that soul energy that came in for you as you have this new generation, we
Yeah.
carry the generations. We carry that DNA. We carry that in showing up. Yeah, I think that's a really great sign.
Yeah, I was a kind of channel, I think. I don't think she
I
was
would
so
agree.
much interested in me as she was in making an appearance to this female descent. So there's something going on there.
And sometimes the cameras can catch it. I've caught orbs as I'm teaching like past lives and Akashic records. I've caught orbs moving through on the recording. So I think there is something to be said. And I think that really goes along with really even my fascination of the soul. Wow, we can have these experiences, and this energy does transcend all. It transcends the body, it transcends the brain. And I think a lot of what you're talking about here is this alternate state. In fact, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is that alternate state of consciousness versus channeling from the divine or just being in a spiritual energy. How do we begin to distinguish that? Do we even need to know how?
I'm not sure we need to know how. I accept the odd experiences. I always have accepted them as just part of reality. And I do make a kind of distinction between, let's say, most psi experiences and spiritual experiences. The psi stuff is, for me, either kind of dark or just okay. The spiritual stuff is lifting for me. So there's some kind of continuum there, I think, or some different, I don't want to say compartments because it's more organic than that. But there, for me anyway, there's a sliding scale from, okay, there are footsteps coming down the hallway, or there's this angry old man standing in the middle of the living room. I'm sleeping on the sofa in my former brother's former mother-in-law's place, and I can almost see him, and but not quite. So he's an incipient for me. He appeared to my brother's mother-in-law in her bedroom that she as a full apparition. I know from the literature and from some of my own experience that the size stuff is, again, for me, it's either kind of dark, it's not uplifting for me.
What do you mean by psi? I don't quite understand what that term is.
PSI, the parapsychological.
Okay.
Parapsychological, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, ghosts and things like, and apparitions and appearances and odd coincidences and so forth, some of which I take it that I agree with you completely that we live within psyche or spirit. We live and move and have our being, as the ancient Greek poet said, in this psychic medium. And everything that is manifested is, we say materially, is an expression, partial expression, but expression of that in which we live, in that spirit in which we live and move and have our being. So everything is interconnected, and we, and who knows what all and who all we're interconnected with.
Yeah. So one of the ways I like to explain this too is through vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Because your book is getting into the whole idea and what you just explained with the psi, the uplifting part of spirituality, or even like the uplifting part of nature and Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But yet then we have the evil, which sometimes comes in through that ghost or paranormal. We can't explain it. So we do have this different dichotomy. And so I think sometimes for me, without judgment, I look at it as, okay, let's talk about vibration then. What are the different vibrations? We need all of it. We do, in order to have some kind of comparison.
Yeah. And it is reality, capital R. It's all part of that. Yeah. If you got to the Oak Park demon that I talk about in the book, that was certainly dark. And it manifested somewhere in the medium, whatever it is, transitional zone between spiritual / imaginal and almost physical. That was very dark. I was having a nightmare, and I felt this very almost charred to a cinder character that was in the nightmare at the very end. And then I felt it. I was in one bedroom. My wife and our daughter, who was 3 at that time, was in another bedroom down the hall. And I felt this thing come up through my chest and sit up in bed while I'm still lying down. And then I felt it and heard it, like almost like a wind, leave my body and rush down the hallway and blow open the door, which was shut, to where my wife and our daughter were sleeping down the hall. And it was so startling. I woke up, I ran down the hallway and into the bedroom, and I saw my wife sitting up in bed, and she said, "What the hell?" I don't know what it did after that. It never returned. I don't know if I've had different hypotheses about who it was, what it was. Maybe the former pastor who had that church for 40 years and had the congregation build the house, etc. I don't know. Or some other thing.
You know the saying, like, we don't even see 99.9% of what's going on. We see less than that. And so when we start to open up to that consciousness and expand those states, yes, we can have experiences like that. And then like you're indicating too, the rooms and the house and where you are, our homes hold those kind of energies as well. Right? And so then we become more aware of them, but it's like kind of the rest of the world that makes you think, oh, you're making this up. But we can receive these messages. And I think that's the point too that you're looking at here. And I think right now with where we are in humanity, I know in our country, we have a lot of this diversity issues going on. Yeah. We have a lot of extremes going on. And we can look at that in the same manner. The higher vibrations, lower vibrations, the good versus the evil. And do we all need to go down to the evil in order to live? No, right?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. We all get at least a taste of it, of the evil. And I would say most human beings get a very heavy dose of it. And some people are overwhelmed by it. And just lives are destroyed. But so I don't believe in repressing it, but we do, I think, have to have strong enough presence ourselves at our best to allow it as far as it is healthy to allow it. I have a depth psychological background too, and I know that working with clients in the past, as a therapist or life guide, you have to, obviously they have to go down into some darkness in order to rearrange the furniture and get free of their complexes and perhaps archetypal forces too. But as the container, the therapist life guide has to have a sense of when the client is getting too far down, where the personal unconscious begins to transform into the collective unconscious, where there's all kinds of stuff, light and dark, good and stop there. You
Yeah,
have to
I
be able to
agree.
stop.
You do have to, and I actually just did a post today about, okay, careful, don't go down into that rabbit hole of despair right now. Because
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
people like me and other light workers and people that do this kind of work, it's, yeah, we have to keep holding the light. And I can know, like yesterday, I taught a Reiki class, and it was a great class, and I felt so amazing. I loved to do it. I felt so high. And then this morning I woke up and I could feel that drop of energy, and just one or two little emails or posts about what's going on and everything that happened over the weekend, and it's like bam.
Yeah,
So yes, so what do? I do have to acknowledge that. Do I need to keep going down? No. So
no,
somewhere I need to get outside, do something, shake up my energy. So I definitely agree with you. We do need to acknowledge it. We don't want to stuff it down because that just makes it work.
right,
Right? And we can't allow the soul to help us. And I
right.
think that's the message too. Like, what would you say is the core message that you're bringing forward in your book?
I the core message is that being open to experiences of ourselves slash others, living, dead, whatever you want, incarnate, not, and so on, of ourselves at different registers, both deeper and higher, allows us to be humble, not humiliated, but humble. It allows us to fill out the awareness that we live in one little slice of reality and experience ourselves as mostly as one little slice of a infinitely larger reality, is also brings feelings of gratitude, of exaltation, of bliss, of joy. It connects us with a larger reality in which we can situate ourselves, and we live better lives because of that.
I agree. We live better lives because of that. I do think that's where spiritual practice comes in. Kind of one
Yeah.
of the things I talk about, because it gives us that depth. Right? If I was to only go around in 5D, which I would love to only go around in 5D, but I really wouldn't be able to serve my purpose here on earth. And if I only lived in everything's great and everything's fine, then we get into that whole idea of spiritual bypassing what we really feel. So I think it was important for me this morning, just as an example, to honor both parts of me,
Yeah.
but then to also have tools and ways that I can recognize, okay, some of this is my soul that's crying right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
But in my
Mm-hmm.
physical world right now, like, I'm okay. I'm okay. I can get up and get dressed and right. So we
Yeah.
do recognize that, but that soul work is so valuable right now.
Yes, it is. I think it is important to be here, or we wouldn't be here. This is not less real than anything else, the other dimensions and so forth. And it's where we are intended to be for some reason. And I think the divine has many purposes, most of which we cannot know because the divine is infinite. And at least at our cores, we may be infinite, but where we live to pay the mortgage and so forth is not that. But to live aware and to feel while we're navigating this slice of reality, to be aware of others, of the other slices and dimensions, it is so enriching, empowering. And the higher stuff, anyway, for me, brings calm, peace, joy, gratitude, and ultimately love.
Amen.
Because I have felt, we all, I think, probably have been dragged through a lot of dark stuff. And the only and I've been aware as I'm going through that there's another dimension. When I was younger, I pictured it as a kind of Buddhist heaven, and there was this beautiful blue smiling Buddha face watching me. And I'm not a Buddhist, but I draw from all kinds of traditions, and I think they're all the divine revealing himself, herself, itself to us in whatever cultural context. Anyway, that the pain of going through the not so great stuff, if you can also keep the blue Buddha in mind or whatever, and know that you are there too. You're here, but you're there too. In essence, really helps.
It does. And I know for me, it's, okay, I get up early, meditate, do my Reiki practice, and I can feel so good and can feel so happy. And then sometimes stepping back in to this 3D world, this humanness that we are,
Yeah.
we do see the struggles, but it does give me that compassion, especially for people that don't have the practices, right? We need the
Right.
tools, we need the practice, and we need the awareness that we can have, like experiences like you're talking about. We
Yes,
can feel that through
simultaneously.
generationally. Yeah.
Simultaneously. We
Yeah.
transcend, and yet we're also here. And I take it that, as I said, that we're supposed to be here. There's something that being here and living this is contributing to, or at least expressing what we always are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think it is important. And knowing that God, source, creator, however you choose to look at that, it is a source of energy. It is a source of light. It is moving through
yeah.
us. And how we as humans choose
Yeah.
to then acknowledge that and work with this, that's our work. That's what we're here to do. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
We were talking about the way that our consciousness opens up and that generational energy, as your granddaughter you're describing, and then the elder comes in, that we do
Mhm.
carry this. And then in the humanness of who we are, we bring these traits. Sometimes I call them imprints. I know I'm working on deep ancestral energy right now. We're in winter, we go deep, right?
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
is some of that consciousness and some of that soul making energy that you do talk about and bring forward.
Yeah, it is soul making. And that is a theme in the book too. If there's one theme, it is find your higher selves. Let that happen, experience that, and that will enrich and empower your life. Another message is persons. I do think that everything is person, probably.
What do you mean by that?
I mean
Person.
that the infinite person manifests itself, herself, himself, in all things. So there's personhood, and then there's personhood, and then there's personhood, and then there's personhood. I'm thinking of Alfred North Whitehead, for example, the British philosopher who believed that every time there is a shift in energy, even at the quantum physics level, it is experienced. Something that, say, for example, a proton shift in energy, it feels that. How, from our perspective, unbelievably unconsciously, but there's striving, there's moving forward toward greater information and greater knowledge, greater fulfillment on the part of everything. And as David Chalmers said, he said, think about a thermostat. It has three states. There's off, of course, but there's also heat, nothing happening, cool. And he speculates that the thermostat, not like us, but the thermostat experiences in some way changes of state. As the ancient Egyptians said of God, thou hast made thyself into these millions. If made thyself into these millions. So it's not creator outside of creation. This is all the creator making himself, herself, itself into stuff for whatever reason. So I think it's persons all the way up and persons all the way down, even at the quantum level.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand when a quantum shift happens, it happens everywhere, right? I agree with that. And
Yes,
I notice it
yes.
from the cosmos. I follow the cosmos and the stars and astrology. And when they're shifting and they're aligning, like we're seeing it right now. We're experiencing all of this shifting of energy.
And I think they experience it too, not the way we do, not probably self-reflective and so forth, but they're experiencing something.
I think that's a good point to think about. I haven't really thought about that, but I think if you think about it and you say, okay, as they're experiencing it too, what are these new soul contracts are going to come in at this? What is this purpose now? We've got more missions to do. And I agree. Look, I was in New York during 9/11. right? And that was pretty amazing. And I saw the planes, I heard the planes, everything. I was shut down before I could even get into the city that day, right? And experience all that. I
Wow.
could see it from my town. I lived on Long Island. But part of the understanding was like how many souls gave up their life for this shift in humanity. Now, it
Hmm.
was not a popular opinion, but it was the way I understood it.
Hmm.
And then how many other stories came forward of these like weird kind of occurrences of soul energy re-showing up later, like experiences that they had. But this is what you're saying too, when there is that ripple, and that they
Yep.
probably do. And then this is how we make those soul contracts that we come in to help humanity. We need help right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even, and we may do that kicking and screaming at this
Yeah.
level of awareness against our will, we say. But there's so much more to us than we are aware of, that other
Thank you.
aspects of ourselves are, yeah, sacrificing this part of us for some greater awareness, some greater good, and so forth. Yeah. And we, the mortgage payers, may not want that. In fact, usually don't. But because we have so many layers and so many characters within us, some of which think of themselves as us legitimately or as part of us, and also alien to the immediate realm of what we are, who knows what their intentions are? We're part of them,
We are
part of
part
their
of them.
intention.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you can ask that question all day long. Believe me, I do. Like, why is my soul here? I think I have a more of an
Yeah.
understanding of that. But why are we even created? It's sometimes you can get off as like, how were we created? This is amazing that we know that we have to go to sleep to heal, to wake up, and to it is pretty amazing, and we so often take it for granted. But when we start
Yeah.
to open up to the energy of our soul and start talking to that deeper part of us and expand that consciousness, which is what
Yeah.
you're doing by sharing your stories in the book,
Yeah.
we can have a deeper understanding.
And that makes this, that contextualizes this life so that we see that it isn't all there is to us. And that is very important. It's healing.
Phew.
It's, yeah, yeah. But there's some reason that we and everything else that's here was called to do this. Okay. And I don't know what that is, as I basically open the book with, I don't know what reality is. I don't know anybody who does. We get glimpses and bits and pieces, but it is so beyond us that at least in our finite states, we can't know. But
Yeah.
that's where trust comes in, I think. We have to trust the infinite person to, and the larger us's, to guide us and sustain us and help us through this, even through biological death.
Yeah. And trust those experiences like you shared in the very beginning. There is nothing more beautiful to me than a little baby. It is in
Yeah.
that theta state, and we just go, ah. And so
Yeah.
having the experience of that, and then the other experience that you talked about, the generational energy, the grandmother, the great grandmother coming back through.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, there is these coincidences. And to me, it does make our life much more richer. It
Oh,
really
yeah.
does, because it can
Oh,
get really
yeah.
intense where we are right now. So we find those
Right.
signs and those messages. I was talking to my daughters where it's like my parents showed up in my dream now. It's interesting because some of what I'm working with, there's a little argument going on in the dream, and it showed me my behavior. And it's, whoa. But then on the other hand,
Oh,
it's, oh, my parents were in my dream. Oh, come back. But it was
yeah.
such a
Yeah.
big message for me, showing
Mm-hmm.
me how I am working through some of this energy. And I think we could do it all. Just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's not
Oh,
real.
yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
I think that's a
Right.
theme too that runs through this and runs through our
Yeah.
soul. Yeah.
Most
And
of what
when,
we are, we don't
right,
see
most of what we are,
directly.
we don't see. Yeah. Yeah. And when we have these messages, like you said, it's trusting and believing that we
Mhm.
can have these. Everybody can have soul messages. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Everybody can. I think psyche, capital P, the divine, whatever you want to call it, is trying with everybody and maybe everything, but let's stay with people right now, to message them, to wake up in a sense, to grow, to expand, to, and but I think that some people are clearly more naturally open, more porous to that, those messages. everybody gets them, but a lot of people don't receive them or
Or
don't
trust
have,
them, going back
or
to that
trust
idea.
trust
Yeah.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've done card projection stuff with various people. Some people can see the card I'm projecting. Other people don't. But I'm thinking of one incident with my daughter where she was about 18 or so, and we just tried the experiment. She was in her bedroom with the door closed. I was downstairs, and I was projecting just not a whole card, but the color black. And after a couple of minutes, she said, "Red." I said, "No." And she said, "What color were you projecting?" I said, "Black." She said, "I heard you saying black, and I second guessed myself, you know, and
And I
that's
think that's what happens. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I teach a lot of intuition, teach students how to trust it. And I get that all the time. Yeah, but I don't trust it. But we also have to look at how much we're bringing in. That's where I start. We don't realize how many bringing in, how much we're taking on. So then we have to first recognize that so that we can trust our messages. And I think that's
Yeah,
exactly what you're saying there too.
yeah,
It
mm-hmm.
is fascinating when we deal with the soul, I think. And it's taken me so many years and recognizing like I've been through many lifetimes talking about this. And
Mm-hmm.
I also am an
Mm-hmm.
interfaith minister of spiritual counseling, so studying all the religions and bringing it forward. But for me, it is the spiritual aspects and being on Mother Earth and
Yeah,
working with
yeah,
her and noticing all of that coming forward and how much we need to be on Mother Earth with her right now is very important. And you
yeah.
bring that message through too. What is your mission? What is your purpose for this, for the book?
And the other things I do, it's to help. It's to help people experience that joy beyond the bounds of the world that can be brought into the world and needs to be brought into the world in our personal lives, and to experience awe, wonder, to be more, to feel themselves, experience themselves as more, as fuller selves than they normally experience themselves as being.
Yeah, fuller,
That's
richer.
really
I agree. Yeah.
help people lift, transcend. And as you said, you can't do it every moment of the day because there is this dimension to work in, which I think echoes or has effects on that we're predestined, let's say, but nonetheless, we experience things in time and space. So what we do here does influence, in quotes, what we are eternally. And yeah, it's to help.
To help. Yeah, I think to help and expand the consciousness so we can have a broader picture of life, especially in difficulties, right? When we are going through times like this, because we're in a very extreme time right now. We really are.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
we
how do we
are.
come back around? Yeah, holding the light
Yeah,
is my
we may not
answer.
have, yeah, we may not have, and we don't I don't have control over the events of leaders and masses of people and so forth, or even being hit by an asteroid. It's but what I
Or
do
flying
have,
rockets.
yeah, right.
So much to think about in the book, right? So many things to concepts to talk about. Plato, just like everything you bring forward about your stories, your work, and your life. And
Yeah,
your work also, too, comes through with the work that you've done with the men, the books that you've written before. So I do think it's a really great thing for all of us to open up to right now. So thank you for your work. Where can I
thank
direct
you.
people to find you? Are you teaching any courses right now? Do you still
I
have your
I
men's group?
I don't have the men's groups, but I do have, I'm connected with that whole world of trying to help men mature. But you can find me at douglasgilletteCreations.com. You can also, I would say, email me because I do have an ongoing book discussion group.
Well, I can put your website links, and I see you're on LinkedIn as well. And I can put
Yeah.
those links in. Yeah, and we'll give a shout out to Inner Traditions for publishing the book
Mm-hmm.
and for contacting me about it as well. So we'll give them
Yeah.
a shout out. And as you said too, we can find the books all around. I'll put links for that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you're
Yeah.
going to email me, say in the first line what you're emailing me about, or I'll
Okay.
just delete it.
So as we do come around to close the show, I like to come back and ask, and we've said it, but if you could leave our listeners with an uplifting thought, how do you feel that this book and this talk and discussion about soul making and the realization of a mystical life can help to empower the spirit right now?
Read the book, do some of the exercises that are mentioned in the book, do r- deep reflection and be open as you can be to messages. And if the message is dark, don't go with it. You can feel that. If it feels light, uplifting, expanding, go with that. And then be okay about when you come down from that being here.
That is a big message. Be open to what we can't see and be open to bigger messages coming in. And yes,
Yeah.
you can feel the darkness. Like we said earlier, don't go down that rabbit hole. Lift up. And we need to hold that awareness that there is so much more to life than what we see. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
So much more
Thank
to
you.
us.
So much more
Thanks
to
very
us.
much, Terry Ann.
Yeah.
This is great.
Thank you so much. Yeah. To your
Okay.
spirit. Thank you.
To yours.
That is a big message coming in. Be open to what we can't see. Be open to a bigger message coming in. And trust it. Trust your soul. Expand your thoughts. And if you do feel the dark, the evil, acknowledge it. But you don't have to go down into the rabbit hole. Allow yourself to shift it. Get up, move, do some Reiki, do some breathing, get outside. So you find that balance for your everyday life. And as we say in Reiki, just for today, be present. Right here, right now. Let go of the fear of yesterday's struggles or the anxiety of tomorrow's worries. Right here, right now. Or as Ram Dass says, be here now. Hold that awareness. There is so much more to life than what we see, even what we think. Be sure to check out my website for upcoming programs, classes, Reiki classes. I have ongoing private mentoring programs, and I am always available for energy sessions, tapping, and spiritual counseling, working with you, your path, your light. Thanks again for listening. I am your host, Terry Ann Hyman. To your spirit, namaste.